Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Warren Beech, who's the CEO of Beech Veltman, who are a leading mining, natural resources and energy-focused law firm with a specialist team in mining infrastructure and natural resources. Warren is a highly accomplished and recognised mining law specialist. He provides multi-disciplinary legal and related services to the mining industry, which includes health and safety, environment, anti-bribery and corruption, human rights, fair employment practices, community and social aspects, and also black economy empowerment and transformation. He's going to cover some of those topics I've just mentioned and discuss the challenges of the African mining industry that's facing at the moment from all different angles. Before we start this podcast, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Hawcroft, who are leaders in the property risk management in the mining industry since 1992. They offer insurance risk surveys, construction risk reviews, asset criticality assessments. They work across 600 sites globally. And within mining, they support processing, smeltering, power, refinery ports, and rail operations. So if you're looking for property and insurance risk management services, then visit their website, which is www.hawcroft.com, and all the details are in the show notes. They also have an office in South Africa, which is where Warren is from. Warren, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks, Rob. All good, thank you. Great to start the year like this. And it's always better to talk about things before they happen and try and address them before they happen. So looking forward to the chat.
Yes, certainly. So I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about your background, about your career, how it's developed, how you became a mining lawyer, and work through your career to sort of present day.
I think like many people, unless you've grown up in a mining family, you don't necessarily fall into mining or follow the path into mining. Mine was not by choice. I ended up working underground at one of the gold mines while I was studying and really to fund my studying. So I ended up working there holidays and afternoons and evenings, and particularly over the periods when everybody else wanted to go and leave. And it was always going to be a part-time situation while I was studying, and ended up on my last shift in December 1990 after working there for 5 years. Had a great experience. I mean, really good people that I'd met, but I was always going to be a lawyer, and finished my shift and chatted to the team that I was working with and said, it's been great to meet you, fantastic to spend time with you. I won't see you again. I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to go and work in Johannesburg as a lawyer. And of course, those are always famous last words. I ended up doing articles at Denise Rates, back then now Norton Rose Fulbright. And I had a principal who was doing some work in the mining industry, and one day shouted down the passage, "Beech, come here, you know something about mining." And walked into the room, and there were a whole lot of lawyers and clients, and we were getting ready for some serious work in the mining industry. And simply because I'd had the experience, I got called into that, and that's how things started. Simply because of the background. And again, I encourage people, I often get spoken to by clients saying, my son, my daughter studying law, what do you suggest they do? And my approach has always been start at the coalface. Literally, if you can get into the mines, if you can spend some time there, go and do it. And then also professionally, we always try and encourage our team members to go on secondment to the mining clients, because you simply get a different perspective. And if you know what you're talking about and you don't make a mistake on what you call the roof in a coal mine, it's called the roof. In a hard rock mine, it's called the hanging wall. If you don't make those mistakes, you already get significant credibility. And again, I'm extremely grateful for, not when I was working, not when I was going underground in the afternoons and the evenings, not when I was working. I didn't appreciate it. But in hindsight, I obviously appreciate just how important that time was.
So I just wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about Beech Veltman and obviously the services that you provide.
So Beech Veltman in its current form has been around for just short of 5 years. So we've been around for about 5 years, but the team has been together in various forms over many, many years. Again, I don't always like sharing this because it starts showing your age, but you can see from the grey hair that I've been around a while, but I've been doing this for over 30 years, and most of the team members around me have been doing it for a long, long time. And so we focus on the health, safety, environmental. It's a very important part, but we also do the commercial, we do the regulatory, we do the criminal work that comes from that, and all of the commercial work. And that's shifted over the years. The commercial work has grown. So we cover very, very focused in the mining and natural resource sector, including renewables. So from the project development, the regulatory side, through the commercial agreements, and then through the lifespan, all the way through to closure of mines, which is not great. It's not a nice piece of work to do when you're doing mine closure and you see all the impacts that are there because the mines are closing. But we do the full spectrum and everything related to that, again, because of the knowledge that we have of the practical side of the business, which does give us an edge, and we really do focus on that.
Obviously, there's numerous challenges for the African mining sector: politics, energy, supply chains, etc. What, in your view, are some of the major challenges for the African mining sector? And similarly, I suppose if there is challenges, there's also opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. So the challenges that have been around for the last 10 years are still there because they're systemic. They're always going to be there. And those are the regulatory uncertainty. Laws change, policies change, people in decision-making capacities change. And so there's always uncertainty around it. That's not going to go away. Infrastructure challenges in Africa have always been an issue. So that's not going to go away. Energy challenges, water, electricity, rail, roads, never going to go away. And all the demands that go around that never go away. They just change the way in which they come to the fore, present themselves. And where the changes have come, there's been significant demands from citizens of countries to participate and share in the mineral wealth. And we've seen how Mali's dealing with some of the bigger mining companies at the moment. So you've always got the demands for greater participation, whether it's nationalism or nationalization calls or simply demands to get jobs and to have opportunities. So that's always there. I think what is changing, and as you correctly point out, change in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but the biggest challenge at the moment in Africa and the mining sector are the changes that are happening all along. The number of elections that have happened over the last 18 months and the changes and established governmental regimes being in place for many, many years. You're looking at Zambia, you're looking, and we've had some peaceful transitions, Zambia and Ghana being two examples, but Mozambique hasn't. So the political change and what that brings is probably going to be one of the highlighted challenges for 2025. The landscape changes, the decision makers change because everybody picks their people and they go into these positions. So political change is going to be one of the key themes for 2025. It's going to be a challenge, but by the same token, it's an opportunity. And it's about applying the principles of transparency and developing the relationships with government and the new people that change and spending time with them, whether it's having tea and just understanding their thinking all the way through to formal engagement. The second big challenge for 2025 is probably going to be technology and AI for two reasons. One, I grew up in an environment where the principle seeing is believing was drummed into us. Unless you see something with your own eyes, don't believe it. And now you simply can't do it. What we see is not potentially real. You take that into account and then all of the AI that goes with it. And there's been good progress on the AI, particularly on the mining side, technology, watching what is going on, real-time data feedback, and being able to amend things. But by the same token, with all of that, there are concerns because in the minds of many people, that results in job losses. And unfortunately, that can be the case because the mining industry, which is still a major employer, still a major contribution to the economy, employs people at various skill levels. And as technology changes, those skill levels will need to change with it. And so there will be job losses because some people simply can't reskill for various reasons. So the technology is there, but it's going to be a challenge because it's inevitably seen as a negative if it results in job losses. So technology, a good position, but it's going to have some opposition. That's resulted in good joint ventures because the equipment manufacturers have to come to the party unless they're selling the right product. They're not going to get and they're not going to stay relevant. So it's all good challenges, but it may take some time. It can help productivity, it can help on health and safety, but there are roadblocks to that. So those are some of the bigger challenges which I foresee for 2025. Our energy and infrastructure is still a challenge unless we work together and co-develop rail lines and ports and electricity generation. Those are going to remain challenges for 2025. But the new challenges, political change and what goes with that, and then the implementation of technology, including AI.
From a South African perspective, obviously that's where you live. The mining industry obviously remains a significant contributor to the country's economy. Despite its importance, obviously the sector faces threats from macro economy challenges that could hinder its ability to continue contributing to the efficacious labour market and broader economy. What are the key factors impacting its sustainability and growth from your perspective?
Again, it's the cost of mining. So as soon as the costs go up, it impacts on the ability of the mining sector to remain resilient to changes and also to take up opportunities when they present themselves. So cyclical demand. If you don't have a strong balance sheet, you can't take up those opportunities when they arise. So mining companies are then looking at how to save money and at the same time trying to deal with increased costs of electricity, labor costs, etc. So, all of those factors play a role. And it stifles or potentially stifles growth and the ability to employ more and more people. So that has an effect. I think you're well aware of the multiplier effect, and it's not just one employee that's in the mine. If you employ one person, there's between 10 and 20 people that benefit from that, whether it's a taxi taking a person from A to B, or airtime, or a cold drink, or anything more formal, along the formal scale. So all of that has the health of the mining industry is quite important because it has such a huge impact on not only the direct employment, but also the related and parallel benefits that other people get from it. So that is it's a challenge. So rising costs are a challenge. The whole focus on ESG, the environment, social, and governance is. I know there are a lot of people that are very supportive of ESG and understandably why, but at the same time, it's had an impact on growth and development. There's certain projects or expansion projects or new projects that have been put on hold because the finance is not there, because it can't meet the ESG principles. So it's a good and a bad thing, and it's something which challenges the mining industry, and it challenges where we're going, and we need to look at those things.
Moving on from that, which leads me to obviously the Stilfontein illegal mining crisis. Some of our viewers may not be aware of that. Obviously, the crisis does evolve around thousands of illegal miners operating in abandoned coal mines in Stilfontein, which is in South Africa. These miners, obviously driven by poverty and unemployment, extract remaining deposits under hazardous obviously conditions and often controlled by criminal syndicates. And I know in late 2024, the South African authorities launched operation, and I couldn't pronounce what it is. I think it's Vala Amplodi.
Yes.
Yeah. So which obviously is about sealing mine entrances to obviously curb the legal mining, which has obviously led to a humanitarian obviously crisis, as miners obviously were trapped underground without food and water, with reports of obviously starvation and fatalities. I just wonder if you can just run through what happened and your point of view as to did it play out as it should have done? Could things have been done better? And I suppose, what are your views on, illegal miners?
So illegal mining, or you've probably heard under South Africa, they're called zama-zamas. It's a term that has been coined and arose, particularly it's a fairly unique term in South Africa and some other African country. So illegal mining has been around for a long time. It's not unique, it's not new. What is unique and new about it is just the sheer scale of it. And that's what's changed it. It was relatively, in the past, I'm talking 10, 15 years ago, it happened. A lot of the older mines were abandoned. It's just part of the legacy. So a lot of the old mines, and at one point there were over 200 mines that had been legacy mines that were there and not being monitored and controlled. And it created opportunities. And as our socioeconomic scenario changed, it also created an opportunity for these old mines to be approached and dealt with and, mined. So it created an opportunity. And as these old mines were unregulated and they were there, it created opportunities for people who needed an opportunity to earn money for their families, etc. So it's always been around, but the scale has changed. There's two things that have changed: the sheer scale of it, and then secondly, the fact that it has become so syndicated and linked to the criminality side of things more than it has in the past. And those are the two big changes. It's highlighted the socioeconomic elements, Stilfontein has, but it's also highlighted just the sheer scale and the criminal syndicates. So we've always pushed on the illegal mining. We've pushed for a couple of things: making sure that the mines are closed properly, that they're closed off and that the access is limited. But illegal mining happens on the old abandoned mines, as I referred to, but also it's been operating in parallel in mines that are being mined lawfully. So you're getting illegal miners going underground with the miners that are employed by the mining company, adding to the challenges. Because the socioeconomic drivers are there, you're never going to get away from it if you don't address the socioeconomic drivers, poverty and everything that goes with it. But the facilitation, the environment has changed. In other words, our police and our government doesn't have the capacity, without serious commitment, to actually deal with the scale and with the criminality that goes with it. It's become a complete parallel industry. It's regulated by itself, managed by itself, and Stilfontein has shown it's almost impossible to deal with. And until we deal with how to facilitate ease of doing business for small scale miners. So if we were able to make it easier, our legislation is very complex. If we were able to make it easier for small scale miners to get licensed, to become part of the system, then you'll start pushing out the illegal miners. It's not a solution in itself. At the same time, all stakeholders will have to deal with the criminal aspects, deal with those aspects, and essentially take over the parallel illegal mining industry and bring it in line. It's a huge challenge. It's not going to be dealt with overnight. Stilfontein has probably shown the worst of everything. It's shown what happens when, and the spectrum of views, you're getting people that saying, well, they got underground, they must get out themselves, all the way to understanding what the impact is on the people that are underground. They're mining illegally, but the gold that they're mining has to go somewhere. Somebody's got to buy it. It's got to get to an end buyer. And that's the difficulty with Stilfontein. It's showing the human tragedy, the human side of it, but it's not necessarily focusing on what is going on behind the scenes to actually allow and facilitate a Stilfontein from happening. And until we address all of this collectively, we're unfortunately going to see another Stilfontein and possibly more going forward, simply because of where we are.
And I guess this happens all around the world as well, especially in obviously developing countries, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in South America, etc. So I guess there is similar problems that you've faced all around the world in, like I said, developing countries.
Absolutely. And a lot of the work that we do has been based in South America and in a lot of the countries in South America who've had similar histories to us. The difference is that they have had a small scale and artisanal mining history, and they formalized it, where we've gone from formal and increased our informal. But yes, the lessons are out there, and we need to, again, talk to our counterparts, work with them to find the solutions.
You've carved out an extremely strong health and safety practice in South Africa. What would you say some of the key components to health and safety in the mining industry? What would you say the key points that maybe our listeners can obviously adopt within their own countries and their own mines?
Health and safety is critical. It's frightening how many people are killed, not only in South Africa, but around the world in the mining industry every year. The adoption of the zero harm principle is vital. I mean, everybody must be able to go home safely every day, so zero harm is quite important. We've got, again, like many countries, we've got an absolutely brilliant piece of legislation dealing with mine health and safety, but it's how it's interpreted and how it's applied. We still have people taking risks, people taking shortcuts. But again, it's changing the culture. You can't, and again, because our culture as South Africans is generally, and I know I'm probably going to be unpopular for saying this, but our culture generally is to bend the rules. That's in our DNA, and to find ways of doing things, and that sometimes means bending the rules, which means that we will drive to the mine gate at 160 kilometers an hour. And then our employer at the mine expects us to drive 40 kilometers in the mine and change our mindset. So it's more of a change of a mindset. And the other day I was driving with my wife, and it's not a good thing to be in the passenger seat while your wife is driving, but we were coming up and there was a car on the side, and I said to her, just be careful, that car's going to pull out in front of you. You look at things as a health and safety practitioner, you look at things very differently. You're trying to anticipate things, but not everybody has that mindset. And the biggest thing is changing the mindset of it's important to do things the right way and to do things in accordance with the rules and procedures in place. And a lot of people don't subscribe to that. A lot of people think that that's just something that's in place. But whether you believe that the rules need to be complied with to be healthy and safe is it's a critical thing. But again, because of the work that I do, and I always tell people this, sit in one fatal inquiry across the table from a family that has just lost a loved one, and that will change your life forever. And it's not a good way to learn how important health and safety is. But once you've sat in an inquiry which is held by the department into the fatality, and you're sitting across the table, literally from the families, then you'll appreciate how important it is. So for me, it's about, we need to do it because it's the right thing to do it. But even if you don't subscribe to that, remember there are consequences, there are people involved, and the industry is inherently dangerous. We have to comply with health and safety.
Yes, certainly. You spoke about obviously ESG earlier. And again, I just wondered what are the key components to ESG practices within the mining industry, and what do you think companies could be doing better than they're currently doing?
So I think historically and even when in the beginning, ESG and the consulting and the practitioner around ESG made the same mistakes that a lot of people make when you're starting dealing with something new. In other words, there are no fixed and firm principles, and it comes down to interpretation. It's the same with lawyers. If you ask a lawyer there are 10 lawyers in a room, and you ask the same question, you'll get 25 different views. And in the beginning, that was the same. So all the people within ESG almost forgot the past, where we came from: corporate social investment and sustainability. And because the terminology ESG came up, it seemed like everybody thought it was open season to come up with what they thought was a good interpretation of what ESG meant. That is crystallized a little bit, but it's turned in many instances into a tick box exercise. And a tick box exercise inherently doesn't work. It doesn't achieve its purpose, or most often doesn't. So the challenges are, it's become a tick box exercise to get it done, to get the tick, and to tell everybody that you've got the tick on the ESG requirement. And as a result, I think substantively it's not necessarily achieving what it should be. And if you look at the environment, it's meant to, which is the first one, it's meant to achieve sustainability. And I think with the focus on the tick box approach, you forgetting about the substance of making sure that the environment is looked after. Social has become a big issue again in South Africa and Africa generally. That's all everything around the communities, and one can almost understand why the communities in and around the mines are demanding what they're demanding. First of all, the mines are becoming substitute municipalities. They're becoming a substitute service provider. And the mines are there, and people can see that there are opportunities. So the social element, again, possibly not getting the recognition that it deserves, and understanding what impact there can be on communities in and around the mines and from further away. And then governance, the G side of things, it's becoming more and more tricky to deal with inconsistent interpretation and application by the decision makers. So it's complex, but a tick box approach isn't a solution. I think that it needs to be looked at more substantially, and I think that there needs to be some flexibility on how it's applied. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that it's unfortunately creating a gatekeeper, and in certain instances, expansion projects and new projects are not going ahead because there's a tick box to the ESG, instead of looking at the substance and saying there can be benefits from this project if you look at it more substantively.
Lastly, the South African Mining Indaba is coming up in early February, so probably only a few weeks away,
Yes.
which is obviously a major event for the African mining industry. Obviously, you're going to be attending. So what are your plans for the event and your views on some of the major themes that are going to be discussed during the course of the event?
Rob, Mining Indaba is always important. It's a very important event every single year, not necessarily because of the talks or the panels or the discussions, but because it creates a platform and an opportunity, and you're getting the full spectrum of almost every stakeholder in the industry in some form or another. So it's a very good opportunity. Everybody descends on Cape Town, and it's more an opportunity to engage, to talk about issues less formally. So I'm saying it's not all about the panels, it's not all about the speakers, but you get the opportunity to speak to your colleagues from across the world, understand what the issues are and what the thinking is, and then we bring that home. And obviously, when we give advice to our clients, we can say, but don't forget Ecuador's got this going on, or Canada's got the. So it allows an interaction, it allows communication, identification of issues and challenges. And this year, I think from a personal point of view, I'm going to be African focused more than anywhere else. I think there's a lot of talk about President-elect Trump coming in on 20 January and how that's going to affect, and the delinking from China and the refocus potentially on Africa's mining industry, and the USA possibly trying to get back into Africa, given policy changes and things like that. So I think my focus this year is going to be more on Africa, speaking to my colleagues throughout Africa to see what their thinking is on the changes over the next year or so. So that's going to be the primary focus. It's engaging and speaking to colleagues and just getting a sense of what is going on. But it's a very good event, and again, the number of people that are going each year increases post-COVID. It's back to its previous levels and possibly more. Again, on a personal level, for me, quite important, being a lawyer. On the Wednesday, the 5th, I've got an opportunity with a whole lot of lawyers, and we're in a room together. And these are the things the General Counsel Forum with Africa Legal is quite important, because it allows just the lawyers and the general counsel at the operations to look at the challenges that they're having. So I've got a slightly different focus this year, but the general principle is it's good, it's an opportunity, we have to take it, we need to listen, talk to our colleagues, and then bring it back to the office.
Yeah, great, and it's a great event, and I'll certainly be attending like I do most years. So, Warren, really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story, telling us about obviously Beech and Veltman, the services that you provide, and some of your insights to what is happening in the African mining industry, and obviously some of the challenges that face us, and maybe you might have given us some points for people that are listening to maybe look at some of the practices that they are doing, and maybe just make those slight improvements to have obviously better outcomes. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, if they want to potentially use your services, how can they go about reaching out to you? Are you on any sort of social media channels?
Absolutely, and I'm always happy to talk to people. I love engaging with people, and whether they want to use our services or not, they're welcome to reach out. Always happy to have a chat. We're on all the social media, so Instagram, Facebook, and we've got our own website and page, so they can certainly contact with me. I'm happy to give the email address, but it's warren@bv-inc.co.za. But people are welcome to reach out, go through the website. I will always respond to emails and always answer questions, and I enjoy engaging with people, whether they use our services or not.
Yeah, that's great. And all those details will be in the show notes accompanying this. So thank you for your time, Warren, again. I'll see you at Indaba in a few weeks' time. And I imagine any of our audience that are listening, if they did want to catch up with you, I'm sure that you'll be able to accommodate that.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support, and keep sharing these episodes far and wide. These episodes don't need to be just shown within Africa, can be worldwide, in other continents, other countries. We need to educate our mining industry, and it's a continuous process, educating and learning to help improve standards, help improve processes, make us think a little bit differently, perhaps by listening to these episodes to make our industry better. Thank you for listening. And as always, appreciate your support. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.